thank you, security board community, and for many of you who have been following up. So my topic today is Head in the Clouds, the evolving SaaS threat landscape, or threatscape. Very difficult to introduce cloud without making you guys fall asleep. So how do we do this? Today we are at security board, but I want to take you to the clouds, right? So I'll be your captain today for your boat and for your aircraft, right? So my name is Joshua. I am a security researcher with Microsoft, and a quick walkthrough of your flight plan this Sunday. All right, we'll be introducing and setting the stage. We will, of course, talk about what is SaaS, right? So many definitions, you've been hearing this, cloud is in, right? What is it? What is the attack surfaces? We'll talk about tactics actually being used in 2024 and a few more from real life cases, not to blame or shame. Everyone's trying their best, right, in products. It's to learn. If you're a community, you will give feedback. And also studying active cases gives you ways, if you're a pen tester, or if you're in defense, or if you're in compliance, how actually they're being used by advanced adversaries, or even just fraud. And of course, we will land the plane, right? Unless you like international flights or you have a connecting flight. But the question is that the destination? Hence there's a question mark if you see. Quick disclaimer, and I have to put this. A lot of my memes got scrapped by the legal team. So anything I say here, I'm saying as an enthusiast, as a researcher who's seen a lot. It does not link back to my workplace. It does not link back to any product per se. It is here so that you guys can understand, right? There's no geopolitical context. There's no legal thing. You need help in this things. You have questions, of course we can discuss. But if you need professional help, there are better professionals and products tailored to this. This is so that you guys are aware of this field, right? A lot of you are, I think, students. Just a quick poll. How many of you are students? Can you just raise your hand so I can understand how to talk on this? Okay, how many of you are working professionals? Alright, how many of you work on cloud or have at least used some flavor of cloud? Alright, how many of you use applications like WhatsApp? Okay, that means we have SaaS people here because SaaS is a form of, like WhatsApp is a form of SaaS, by the way. Quick introduction, actually, I am a security researcher with Microsoft R&D. That means a lot of my dark circles are because I'm reading a lot or on screen quite a bit. But if I'm not doing that, I'm memeing. I'm an advanced persistent memer. I'm also a motorcycle enthusiast. So if I'm not here, Atharva knows this, he's been following up every Saturday, I am on the road. Because I need to clear my head. I read the Java Parag. I have a few more others, but yeah, I have a few people I go around with. If you guys want to join, there's another thing there. Maybe board security board can organize a community ride if you guys want. Alright, let's set the stage, let's get serious. Is SaaS truly secure? Question to you, all of you, right? Is SaaS truly secure? Because you can't see the infrastructure below it, it's a service. SaaS being one of the other things, also like your WhatsApp, which you access through your phone, but you can access through the web, right? So let's try and define what software as a service looks like actually. Professional security with reliable service, right? SaaS is the operating system of businesses today. It's not just a technology, right? You have your ordering on Swiggy, your ordering going on websites, you can order from anywhere. It is becoming an operating system for businesses. It's not just your Windows, for businesses, right? And if you think of SaaS revenue, and this is based on 2024 data, I can share all these data points with you if you want. It's a $282 billion industry just to build SaaS. So a lot of these companies that come up that provide you solutions, right? That's a big area. Now, one thing in security, I'll tell you, where there's money, there's going to be attacks. So that's why I'm giving you that case point. But you know how big is the Indian SaaS industry right now, valuation? Do you think, how much percentage do you think we own of this? We have so many good coders, we have so many great products, Wiki does such amazing work. How much percentage of it do you think globally we have? 10%? 70? Okay, anything else? Yeah, be pessimistic. We have 0.9%. And we make one of the best. I am very proud of the products we kind of end up making, but it doesn't grow very well. Because Zepto can't work in Europe because labor laws are very different here. Yeah? 10 minutes mein aadmi kahin se bhi chala dega gaadi. Then they'll get your food home. But some things don't apply there, and hence this is also an opportunity here because Indian SaaS businesses are supposed to grow to almost another 5-6% because the industry is growing that much. We have the scale. So many startups are coming up. So that's where attacks happen, right? That's where the money is, because SaaS is not always implemented perfectly. So if you see, SaaS is widely a browser-based access. You can use your WhatsApp on your web. You can use Swiggy there, right? I'm using simple examples so that you can understand, but SharePoint is another example, right? There's an app on your client, you can use it on your phone, you can use it on a browser, you can use it on multiple browsers on the same computer. Right? So and it maintains asynchronous session management, meaning the session started on each of your client's browser is separate from the other, and then they sync together. That's why sometimes when you're updating notes in one place, it syncs to the other in some time, depending on your internet services. What that does is creates what we call an attack surface. Because I can log in. If you have my device access, you can log in. Right? Make sense? So I've set the stage. But I'll give you a little more context, right? A lot of you are starting off now, so a lot of you might not see this. The traditional architecture of companies was very different before. Everything was behind the VPN, right? You have to have a VPN. I've worked with banks, so you have to have a VPN to access. You can't do anything on it. You can't even open a browser unless the VPN is active, which is pretty good security, right? There's a demilitarized zone, and then everything else is there, and then there's an identity provider, right? Your Active Directory and all these things used to exist. And then you have firewalls and you can access the web. Things have changed. What happened in 2020? What happened in 2020? Work from home is still there. I love work from home. That means you can access all of this from outside your companies. It pushed SaaS to a different level. Today, all your cloud service providers, you can also have your private cloud, is outside. Your computers are at home. You can log into your company systems through VPN, and from the company also, if you're logging in here as well, you can log out. But what has caused this is that your perimeter, which was network before, your firewall, is no more. Your perimeter has become your identity, right? And that's where I want to actually state that identity is slowly becoming your attack surface in the modern day. Because even though you are old school, a lot of government organizations, primarily like RBI and all, haven't gone to cloud because of this. Right? Because clouds need to have what we call gov cloud environments, and they still don't trust the cloud. India still does not. But a lot of banks today, I think at least some of the PhDs are starting to move to this. But they don't understand how identity works. Because if you go to an SBI, they have pen drives in their servers, they're just moving around like that only. So your data is anyway leaked long time back. But वो है कि गरीबी है तो कुछ नहीं जा रहा निकल के. But this is going to happen, and people don't understand how identity works. We still don't understand how logins work so easily because the protocols keep changing, right? So how do we look at this as attack surface? And how does identity become your perimeter, right? You have so many identity service providers today. You have Azure Active Directory, Marketing has changed, made it Entra, Okta. India has one which was launched, right? Pure ID with Ajit, which got acquired recently. And then there are a few more which keep coming because identity is your new perimeter, right? You need to log into anything. MFA, so many providers are there for open source, right? So attacks on identity service providers has increased. Password spray, which used to be like the most boring thing for pen testers, now is the most exciting thing, specifically now with LLMs involved. You have MFA bypass, tokens. Tokens are your new passwords. So have you ever used any website login and your Google identity is used? Have you noticed your Facebook identity is you don't put a password, it just links it? That is actually a form of authentication, I say, called OAuth or OpenID as well, like Apple also has it. They use tokens, they don't use passwords. You never put in your password. So tokens have sort of replaced passwords. And then there's adversary in the middle, phishing attacks have become better. SaaS enumeration is the SharePoint thing that you shared. Why SharePoint for a company? Company's internal SharePoint usually has all the data. And that's where they enumerate or just do reconnaissance. Who do I target next? Who's the CEO? Who's the project owner? Who will have the admin credentials? Right? So it becomes an interesting area of collection of all sort of your information before you attack. Because in pen testing, if you hit a wall, you enumerate, you keep enumerating, and then you get angles. So SaaS has made enumeration so easy. It's becoming difficult. SaaS privilege escalation has become, right? If I can give you access, not to your user account, but your application to high privileges, you will not even know what is happening, right? Also, if you see SaaS, it means, so we have 3 layers of cloud, right? SaaS, PaaS, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service. Basically, how much more complexity you want, right? Do you want your own server completely, or do you want just the operating system to a certain access, or do you want just software chalana, right? But the funny thing is with SaaS, I can actually start going down. And this is where you have these joint models, right? Where companies like Microsoft, Azure, so many cloud computers, computing systems are coming, where you have this model where we share responsibility model, right? You'll see SaaS, we'll take care more, infrastructure, you'll have to take care more, right? So, but adversaries don't see it, attackers or bug bounty people don't see that, oh yeah, but it goes down. You can actually start going down through APIs and all. You can start going down through your infrastructure. I've seen it go down even further to where the physical security hardware wirings are that heated it up because of some way they've gotten access, right? And then one of the biggest things, your companies still have on-premise systems, right? Active Directory is still there. You have your servers in the company. Legacy code is still a problem, right? Programs are still working from code which is written 20 years back, right? And then they can jump onto your cloud or back, right? It's becoming a very hybrid warfare. Then you have multi-cloud. Companies have Google Cloud systems, Google Cloud Workspaces, AWS for infrastructure. Suddenly someone has put up crew trim in Ola with the new, and that was like, I don't know what is happening there. So yeah, it's becoming a very difficult attack surface. But it is possible to secure. How to secure it is to understand basic things. As researchers, we study and observe. I love to see attacks. I become fans of these Russian guys. Beautifully, they do it. The Russian guys are very good compared to the Chinese. You're not quoting me in this, by the way. But sometimes you have to observe how they think. And best way to observe is seeing attacks. But seeing an attack, to analyze it, you need frameworks. So how many of you have heard of MITRE attack framework? Right? I'll introduce it. But I'll also introduce why it's not enough yet. And why? Because it's a government entity and it's a research entity. Many companies, along with I think security board, everyone can register and send research saying that your framework needs to update. Right? Because it helps in analysis and creates a common language between your customer, threat intelligence response, easy to explain. Alright, so let's take a quick understanding of what is happening and why identity has become your new frontline. Early 2000s, network is your perimeter. Today, in around 2010, endpoints were, right? Endpoints being servers, computers, phones, smartphones just started revolving around, Blackberries became your biggest thing. Early 2020, COVID happened, SaaS, everyone is at home, right? Identity became a perimeter. I give you a thought. LLMs, artificial intelligence is booming like anything. Every week we see enhancements. Do you feel AI will become your next perimeter? Food for thought, right? In-flight meal, you don't have to buy for this. Alright, we'll take campaigns, and I'm not going to name them. These are actual campaigns. I did not name the companies, as I said, right? I'm not here to name or shame, I'm here to make you think critically. The day we stop pointing fingers, the day we start looking at reality, it's where we actually come together as a community of researchers, enthusiasts, product builders, and actually have money-making opportunities as well. Right? Alright, campaign name 2024. I'll not take the name, but I work there. Okay. Parcel spraying happened, and credential stuffing happened. Alright? And then they gained access to what we call global admin rights in a test tenant. So if you are a product company, you have test tenants, you're showing stuff, right, to customers. Look at us, we are saving the world, we are the next thing, okay. So test tenants got done. And then they jumped into the real company tenant where all our code is and everything. And then they increased their privilege of an overall application and gained access to emails up and down the chain. If you are smart enough, you don't go for all the... See, the smartest adversaries go for information. Right? They go for what is the email conversation that is happening, right? What is the Teams chat that is happening? What is the Slack chat that is happening? What repositories are there? What SharePoint accesses you have? Is SharePoint linking to OneDrive? Because sometimes you have media files which are shared, which are saved in OneDrive but shown in SharePoint. That's how the architecture works. So, right? You want information. Information is leverage, right? So they kind of got into this. Password spraying, funny enough, before COVID, 7% of global industry only used multi-factor authentication. I have been a student and I've heard of multi-factor and no one implemented it still then. After COVID, it became 14%. Till today, it's only 15%. It's not even implemented, and the companies are trying to force it. Microsoft does it, Azure is going to, AWS is going to do MFA as well, and Google is also, because it requires that. You need to have MFA, right? But because of the fact that this was a test and MFA becomes difficult, right, to monitor and all. So what they did was, they did password spraying, right? And there's a question for this, by the way, what is the difference between password spraying and password stuffing? So you better start Googling, because it all looks similar, it isn't. Many of your students start learning these are questions that come. Alright, so they got into that. Let's take another campaign in 2023 that happened, right? They used a personal Google account. And a lot of us log into our COP devices or many other, because Google is also accessible through a browser. Sometimes they don't block it, right? User had access to an Okta managed work device. What is an Okta managed work device means is you have admin rights on that work device hard-coded for your Okta identity provider. Personal account, got access to the device, endpoint they've gotten into. Then they got personal account, they realized they have no MFA. Again, it's personal Google account. So you can't blame tech for this now. It's not the tech's problem anymore. This is just a practice and a habit problem. Right? We send emails also sometimes because we save our important videos in our personal drive. Suddenly, it's not cool because credentials are getting leaked. And then the service account also did not have an MFA. Okay, that's bad. And then the threat actor was able to see the tokens, session tokens. That's why I said, right? Passwords are replaced by tokens. He just initiated a token. And using the HAR file. Now, HAR files are a certain form of architecture that is used. You can read deeper into it. But basically, it's a sort of like an XML file, a little bit more deeper. But it was able to give you enough information to impersonate. You can remove one of the email address, the ID of the user, and just put in the necessary bit to actually hijack a legitimate session, right? Which actually was working from there on another device. And then, once they got access to this, they have access to the whole, you have identity access. I can make users and stay quiet for years, right? Let's take another 2 campaigns before some people fall asleep. Campaign C, employee researched over LinkedIn to find if you have privilege after rules. So many of you are security engineers. I'll say I want to hack into your company or I'm doing bug bounty. I go on LinkedIn, right? I'll start scoping who you are, what you're writing about. Oh, very nice, can you explain more and all these things. And then, nice email, I'll send you an image. Or a GIF, memes also I can put with a nice payload. Get access to your phones, right? If you're Android users. I have not tried for Apple yet. But these guys accessed, research LinkedIn users over, the employees over LinkedIn to find who could have Okta privileged roles. Because you can understand who's an engineer, you can somehow make a structure of an org, and a lot of things are leaked nowadays. They contacted the help desk impersonating that. Now, a lot of you know Pune has a lot of these ITS companies, and they are help desk. You can get the number, call them in, and act like you are them. What are the challenge questions they ask? Your birth date, your name, your manager name, possible. Hierarchy is usually easily foundable somewhere or the other, or just come to a meetup and ask. It happens. You have to be aware. The mind is usually the first thing they kind of go after. These guys are smart. What they did was they got the accounts, and the accounts then were assigned higher privilege roles because customer service or the help desk helped them to just log in. And they reset and they also put MFA. They are using better methods of MFA than us as company guys, right? And then they assign higher privileges to the accounts. Then they registered a second account, attacked the controlled IDP. Basically, when usually IDPs like Okta, Entra, OpenID, because we're all hosting multiple companies, we have separations. But usually, there are sometimes, as I said, legacy code issues that causes you to jump from not just into your company, but to other companies. And if you can get to the main architecture of it, you own all of the companies. So what ended up happening is they obtained global admin rights to Azure for that company, but they were able to go using Okta's org-to-org, inbound federation to even start owning everything around in that tenant. And this was pretty bad, right? This is an entertainment company, and it was pretty easy and relevant because entertainment companies are using a lot of SaaS. Netflix has, hence, one of the best cloud security practices in the world right now, right? Because they will get attacked. Capability is very latest. Again, password spray, credential stuffing attack. But for credentials that were stolen long time back, this was almost 2 years back. What they did was they then logged into a SaaS instance. So, like you use Zomato, everyone has an instance. A company also has an instance of what they're using in the cloud, right? I have servers, someone also has servers for the same provider. What they ended up doing is, they started attacking and seeing where can I log in with all these credentials. Some instance I'll get. And then they were successfully able to log into a Snowflake instance. Snowflake is a data platform, right? A lot of companies put their data in the data lakes. It's a very big platform, like I think Databricks and many others. But Snowflake is one of the newcomers and doing very well, and it was easy for them to get access to it. They got into the instance, they got the raw data in the data lakes, right? And then they were able to exfiltrate it. Now that you've seen 4 campaigns, right? Let's think about it, right? Like, this is not the slide. I'll put them across as the TTPs are there. The initial access, right, based on what happened, either happens with password spray, user account impersonation, or again password spray or credential stuffing. They try to move laterally always, right? And this is all pure cloud attacks, if you see, except for some bits which kind of jumped right from the computer to the cloud. And then there's privilege escalation, and much of the cases they're exfiltrating or collecting information and keeping quiet. What does this tell you? What does this show you, right? From traditional, oh, I'm in. Attackers don't hack anymore. They log in. And I'm quoting Luke Jennings, Push.io, one of the pioneers of SaaS thing, right? Quote him, you can. He is amazingly genius, and hence as a community we've got to respect some people like this. He's done this, right? And he kind of quoted this. Then we kind of go back like, okay, is SaaS Fighter Attack Index, this is almost the latest snapshot I got, catching initial access with password spray, and it's a very blurry photo, but password spray is somewhere here. Initial access is there. What has happened? What has changed? Right? The kill chain has shifted more to the right. On my right or your left. Depends. Perspective, right? But according to my perspective, kill chains have shifted more to the right. Right? More towards initial access. We've now got to start thinking of credential access is also part of, specifically for cloud, more towards initial access. Because your leaks may have happened 2 years back, but the passwords may be reused now. Because LLMs have come in, password spraying has become much more easier to guess. Right? Many of the tactics are not yet added. There's no inbound federation. Many of these tactics are not there only. I recommend you can open it on your phones as well. Many of the tactics I showed you are not there. Right? And hence, I ask you, right, do we need to rethink, because this is heavily used by researchers to explain. Funny enough, Luke Jennings is a hero for me personally. So he came up with his own matrix. This is available on GitHub. It's called the SaaS matrix, right? He and Pushai as a company have done this, and they've presented to Microsoft. And hence, we always say, researchers, companies, you have seen certain perspectives. Push it to these frameworks. You, of course, get your name there, but it's like a bug bounty. Your name comes in bug bounty. Your name also comes for tactic research, right? That this is something you've researched, right? At that, it helps not just one bounty or one vulnerability change, which is big. It gives an entire tactic, a face, a value, and an analysis point for many of us who don't even know this, right? How many of you knew that password playing is still so effective? No, right? This is there. And then the industry standard framework for SaaS threat landscape needs to revamp. Like kill chain wasn't enough. We got MITRE. MITRE is sometimes not enough for cloud. It needs to be revamped. And it goes through revamp. I will say that. Right? But it requires us to continuously push. I know how many times I've referred to them. Right? We need to provide feedback, and they do changes pretty fast. So for example, I think in January, the Asia AttackCon of MITRE is going to have a meeting in Singapore, so that because so many Asian researchers are giving ideas. Persistence in the SaaS world is more prevalent due to poor life cycle of not users, your applications and your non-human identities. What are non-human identities, right? You'll be thinking, your applications like your Facebook authentication, your Google authentication, these things work on their own as well, right? You are not always logged in, it's refreshing. So in cloud infrastructure, there's something we call non-human identities. In Azure, we call them service principals. If you go down into infrastructure, storage accounts, key vaults, so many of these are identities themselves which are more powerful than a user. And sometimes the attacker doesn't use user accounts anymore. They attack the non-human identity. And the lifecycle management is very poor across all industries. Right? You have applications in one of the campaigns, the application was active in another tenant since 2015. It was used now in 2024. Think, right? Why was it there? Why is it still connected to another tenant? It's just poor lifecycle management. Because we only look at users. We haven't defined it for so many of these non-human identities. A good number to tell you, in a typical cloud environment, if you have one user, you have 70 non-human identities, right? So, pretty powerful stuff. You guys are not even, many of us are not monitoring them. Biggest question here is as we land, right, as a captain. I hope you had a nice flight. Some of you are sleeping, that means I flew well. So, question is this the destination we want? Or do we need a connecting flight right now, right, as a community of researchers, of enthusiasts, of engineers, right? Because the question always comes up in SaaS security. Are we there yet? Well, technically not. Right? We are not. We still need a lot more work, a lot more code needs to be evolved, but we're not there yet. But we will be. And there are some ways we can, right? Because I'm not here to pander for you. If you think of security, we think of posture and protection. Posture being hygiene, right? Make sure I'm fair, protection to detect. I have some ideas which work, and thankfully CISA has come up with also, right, in the recent times. Because SaaS became such a big vector, they had to come up with frameworks as well. So they have come up with a logic that CISA calls software transparency in SaaS framework. A lot of companies make SaaS, but they don't make it loggable. So you'll be like, what is happening? I don't have the data, right? Compliance people will come back. I've had this talk actually with a big bunch of compliance guys, and they're like, where do we see this data? The product has not made it loggable, right? There's no audit trail. So that's why they said observability is the key to all of this, and they've come up with a framework. So if you today want to make a SaaS product in the United States and you want that framework, you have to have transparency. Even if for a click, for a download, for anything, give the logs if someone is using your product, right? A lot of companies do this. It has to become practice. Detection and integration into incident response. Detections work, but incident response sometimes can't even understand what do I do, because cloud is like someone else's computer, right? And by the time you get the logs, it's only 15 minutes past, because cloud is not real time, right? So how do you bring in incident response playbooks for cloud? And that's where a lot of us are trying to solve this as researchers and all these things. Because security is at the end of the day a team sport. We need getting more communities on board, hence I'm here explaining this because this is happening and there's another attack that has happened. So if you ever get a chance, search for what you call ROCU 2024 passwords, right? Every year, passwords get leaked and there's a nice database. What has changed this year, I would say, is you have what you call, you have ChatGPT, you have LLMs, which can make password guessing much more easier. So, tell me, identity is your perimeter today, right? A few other recommendations as well. Enable MFA. Simple. Even for your Google accounts, you have MFA available, by the way. You can. Bank accounts, definitely. Right? You have, check your apps which are not in use. In your phones, you guys have so many applications that you installed and not used. Right? And you realize, hey, until space runs out, oh, now I need to see it. Why? Because it's hitting my money or my space, I have to buy a new phone. Maybe, and I think Google does it nowadays in their phones, that, oh, app use it, disable it, and no way, right? Apps do that. Cloud, it's very difficult, it's being solved right now. Check your logs, right? Not just for users, but for applications as well. Application logging, people don't think only. That it can do the same thing as a user and much more. SaaS doesn't automatically mean security is there, right? Your business logic also needs security. How many of you know that Amazon's return policy is the most abused thing, right? There's an entire team for fraud for Amazon's return policy, even Swiggy and all of these things. Because when they get money, they're doing it, they're like, yeah, we want quick satisfaction, quick resolution. But after some time, money runs out, right, from your VCs and all these venture capitalists. And you have to make money. Even a return is a logistic price. Sometimes you've got to check your business logic as well. And our SaaS vendors to provide active visibility. It comes to products like us as well. When we lose one day of data as well, right? We are accountable. We take accountability. And then, of course, you got to start thinking of attacks and graphs. I'm going to quote John Lambert in this, one of my personal heroes. When I was in college, he always said attackers think in graphs, defenders think in lists. We of course started thinking in graphs. Graphs help you map in the cloud what we call attack path. For any of you who's wanting to get into cloud security, start learning about attack paths. Start learning about graph databases. Because you have to start pivoting from thinking databases to how your mind thinks, neural networks and all these things. Because you will have aid from LLMs, but LLMs sometimes are not that great as well. You have to start thinking how chess players think. If you think of our great grandmasters here of chess, they also think in maps. They think 100 steps ahead. You can think 3 steps ahead in a graph, right? And you can map these out. So these are some tips for me. These are food for thoughts. With LLMs, SaaS apps will become easier to make. Coding has become so easy. Go to ChatGPT, write it, post it, done. You don't do checks anymore. Secure coding has become such a huge practice and still we fail. LLMs make it much more easier. Does it mean it knows everything? No, right? I also tell this that a lot of us millennials and Gen Z, how our parents think anything coming from Facebook is true, we'll start thinking anything coming from LLM is true, right? It's the bias of our generation, right? So that's going to happen because information is vast. Where does AI fit in your SaaS security? Is a big question you need to have because a lot of the data is so unstructured. I realize whenever I've trained people in core SaaS security, it's so difficult to make them understand the basics and then tell them that AI can help here because you can't do it alone. Human mind can't crunch so many numbers. If I show you logins to an API, you'll be like, how do you manage this? But it's there where AI does fit in, right? And then how does SaaS security model, how will SaaS security protect model access? When I say model access, you've heard about these things, agentic, LLMs, all these things. How would that protect that? Because, for example, Copilot is accessible through cloud access logins. SharePoint, by the way, can be abused. So I was very happy when he introduced that. SharePoint, you can write an agent in Copilot, link it to important SharePoint links, and the access to that URL can be done from outside, and your users will never know who's accessing it, somehow through networks. But if it's using cloud, right? You never know. All your financial information, pay slips, code is going through SharePoint, through the agent and out. The person is just typing, hey, can you tell me latest code pushes out? With that, don't forget to collect your questions because I know you'll have many. And thank you so much for making time this Saturday to just understand a little bit of SaaS. Thank you.